confirm. So can you confirm, like, are you able to see my screen? Can anyone?
Yes, sir, it visible.
Okay. Okay. So today, as I mentioned, right, I'm going to be mainly covering the SDLC. We shortly called SDLC, but if you speak about full software development life cycle. Okay. So basically, why we require to understand this process means if you joined in any company as a IT developer or IT tester, any domain, it may be developer or tester, or we can say designer. So basically, mostly we have three categories of full stack, right, as explained in the last class. So designing, development, and backend database, along with the testing also part. So any of, if you join in any company, this process should aware. Otherwise we may have some confusion, like what will happen in the product wise or project wise. So better to keep understand that all the insights of the development. So today I'm going to be covering that process. So we call software development life cycle. So what it means from, I say, the requirements gathering to deliver to the outcome to the customer. So let's take example. Let's consider you started a company, or you started a project. Okay, let's say a customer came to you. He wants to develop a one e-commerce application. Let's take example. He's planning to sell some kind of vegetables through online. Okay, one customer came to you, like he asked you people, like can you develop an application where I can sell my vegetables through that particular application, and public user can order the vegetables, like that he asked. Now as a developer or as a business user, so what are the different stages we need to come across to deliver the respective project to the customer? So that is what I'm going to be covering as part of SDLC. But generally, this software development lifecycle can be broadly categorized into two variations in current market. One is waterfall, another one agile. There is other many types also, as theoretically we may learn, but technically the implementable. So in the market, what we so whatever we are currently using, these two we are using basically waterfall and agile models. So that we will see one by one detailedly, like what is waterfall and how the things will be going on, and what is agile, that everything. So the waterfall model itself is telling the what, you know, right, waterfall, how it is falling from up to down. So it's a step by step, it is falling from hills to plain area, right? So same architecture we are following in the waterfall model. That's why the architecture always looks like a waterfall structure. Okay, these are the different stages which are involved in the waterfall model when we want to develop any application or any software or any mobile application, anything, any development work in real-time IT industry will consist of these 6 phases basically. Okay, so each phase has its own importance and what we can say, the roles and responsibilities which we involve. So that we will see one by one. But before that, like if you're having any doubts, you can just ping me, otherwise I will start one by one. Okay, I'm taking it as a no doubts as of now, so we'll start one by one then. Just give me a second. Yeah. So the first point we have to understand, Sinan, as a just we can consider as a example, developing the e-commerce application for the grocery delivery or grocery sales. Assume that, okay? So that I'm taking an example. So first, as we know, when we want to start a project as a developer or as a team or as a company, we require to understand clearly each requirement whatever given by the customer. So first we have to drop the requirements. So that is what the phase we call requirement gathering. Okay, so in this requirement gathering, what generally will include, we will try to connect with the customer or client. We'll try to understand what are the different requirements he's expecting from the application, because e-commerce means we have so many options, so many what you can say that facilities we can provide through application, but what client is expecting from that, so that we have to clarify, otherwise it may give a wrong expectation or a miscommunication between the customer and the developer. So that's why as a developer, as a team, we always have a clear cut communication with the customer, so that only we can build a right product to the customer. So that's why requirement gathering is very, very, very important, crucial part of any project development, because if you miss something in the requirement stage itself, so we may not cover all the other stages, end of the day it is a miss from our side to customer, so the definitely it is giving an escalation from the customer. So that's why while we are gathering or understanding the requirements, it is very important, you have to take good amount of time and good number of discussions with the customer, but you have to understand thoroughly what is the requirement from the customer. Let's take, if you consider e-commerce, okay, what is required? Okay, basically we required vendor profile, vendor and customer. And in the customer, what we require generally, registration, login, and change password, logout, and view products, add to cart, checkout, and payment, and notifications. These are the basic options generally e-commerce contains, if you're aware it, right? But here every phase, it looks like very common and very simple, like okay, it's a simple login and registration, right? But if you go detail about, you may get lot of questions. Like example, if you go the login, okay, what kind of login customer is required now? Is it a email or password? Is it a mobile number password, or is it a mobile number with OTP, or is it an email with OTP? So what sort of login the customer is expecting? So based on that we have to develop. If we just simply customer said login, I require login functionality, if you develop the login, end of the day it's not expectation, right? Let's take example, Customer initially said simply, I want login functionality. Without asking any questions, you people develop the login email with password. End of the day, so a customer is saying that no, I don't want email and password, I want mobile number with OTP. So what happened? The entire work, whatever so far you completed, it will be collapsed, right? It will be wasting your efforts. So such what you can say that gaps we have to eliminate, or we have to avoid. So for that only, the first phase is very important, that is requirement gathering. So in requirement gathering, we'll try to gather all the requirements detailedly. It's not like high level, detailedly what customer is expecting from the application side. So let's take second example. I will tell you after login I've given, right? Let's take payment. So what sort of payments? Simply you cannot say payment should be accepted, right? What sort of payments is he accepting? Let's take example, credit card, debit card, net banking, QR code, UPS. So many options are in the market. So what sort of payments he is accepting? So that only we have to enable in the application. We can't enable whatever we can do, right? Similarly, whether he is giving a facility to COD or not, cash on delivery or not. If he is not giving, we should not display COD in the application side. If we want to display, we have to display. So such kind of detailed understanding all the time we have to do whenever we are interacting with the customer. And also try to understand negative cases also. Let's take example. If user given 3 times invalid user ID password, then do you require any blocking mechanism or not required? Or if user did the 3 times payment failure, then whether we can block the transaction or whether we have to proceed with that. So such kind of cases also we have to understand from the customer, because it is always, remember, whenever you are developing some application, it is not for you or for your family, right? It is for the client. So however he want, we have to develop such a way that only. So that is very, very important in real time. That's why while you are involving in the meetings of the requirement gathering or requirement understanding, please try to focus more and more with respect to the requirement, so that only you can develop very easily, effectively. Okay. So this is the first phase, what is involved in the waterfall model, okay, or SDLC we can say that, but in everywhere. But the what waterfall is telling, it's a step by step. Means whatever the phases, we have 6 phases, right? Here if you see requirement analysis, design, coding, testing. So each phase will be happen one after one only. That means once you clear all the requirements, once you got all the clarifications, then only we may go for analysis. Till that we may not start the analysis. So that is a major drawback, I can say that, in waterfall. So it's a purely one team is depending on the previous team outcome. Until unless the first team completing that work, the second team may not start the working on the respective project. So it's a purely steps, I can say that, one by one. That's why we call sequential manner. They will start working on the project. Okay, that is a major process, or major how the things will be happening in the waterfall. Okay, but before going to that analysis, so do you people understand what is the requirement gathering means, or any doubt? Can anyone confirm that? Is this clear, everybody? Okay, I'm considering no. So as I mentioned, once requirements gathering completed, we have to focus on analysis. That means whatever user expected, or whatever the user is asking, we already captured the requirements. We keep all the requirements as a document at our end as a developer. Okay. Now we require to analyze that. How much time will it require to complete the project or requirements? Let's take example. Now customer given 100 requirements to you to develop the application, like including login, register, product, search, filter, like add to cart, view products, reviews, like that. He given almost 100 plus requirements. Assume that. Now as a developer, we require to understand. So okay, they given the requirements. Now we clarified the requirements. We understand that what is the outcome and what we have to do. That is clear now. But now we require to estimate that how much time is required. Okay, will it be completed in 2 months, or will it be completed in 5 months, or will it be completed in 1 year? So what is the timelines we have to provide? That we require to understand. We have to analyze that. And secondly, how many resources do we require? Like for example, 10 people we required, 2 people we required, how many developers we required, how many QAs we required. That is a second part of analysis, resource allocation, I can say that. And third, estimation of the cost. So based on the time, based on the resource, what is the cost we require to tell to the customer now? Let's take example, we committed for 1 year with 10 resources. Okay, then what is the approximate cost for the billing of the application? Let's take 2 lakhs or 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs. What is the approximate cost? So that we have to analyze, that we have to understand, that is cost estimations. And then we have to understand feasibility of the environment, like whatever the technology we have in our hand or in our company. Let's take, consider yourself only. You are very familiar with Java, but the client is required a project in the Python. So now what is the next step? Whether we have to upgrade to the Python or whether we have to recruit a new Python person to develop the application, that is the second question. And secondly, if you want Java and you are the Java resource, then you have to understand what is the Java technology we have to use, either Spring Boot or Hibernate, what is the technology. So that technical analysis also you have to understand, because if you not properly analyze is all feasibilities, what we call technical feasibility, economical feasibility, operational feasibility, social feasibility, transactional feasibility, you may stuck somewhere in the application implementation, and you may be the reason for the particular blockers in the progress. So that's why initially only we have to understand and analyze each and everything. And if you want to tell anything, initially only have to tell to the customer, so that he may understand what is the problem in that, or what is the roadblocks we have. So based on that only he may extend the time, or he may give the some liberation on that. Okay, so that is very important. And of course, once analysis completed, then we may draft a component called SRS, software requirement specification, and it is an agreement between the customer and the developer. So what developer committing to develop and what is customer expecting to as a outcome, so the both mutually agreed to one common point, and they will make a note on one paper. That is only technically called as SRS, software requirement specification. So based on that only remaining all phases will be carried out. If analysis is not done properly, you know, right, you committed to 2 months without having proper estimations, but when you go for real implementation, it is, you are understanding that it may take the 6 months of time. There is a big gap, right? So that kind of what you call drawbacks or gaps we can eliminate by properly doing investigation analysis on the requirements. This is the second phase what we have in the software development life cycle. The first one is requirement gathering. Once we gather all the requirements from the customer, then we have to start analyzing the requirements based on the capacity, based on the time, based on the cost, based on the interaction or operations. All these once you done, then we may go for designing phase. Okay, so design. So before going to the design, anyone have any doubt in the analysis phase?
No, sir.
Okay, great. So now once analysis completed, that means you are cleared with the timelines, when to be delivered and what is the timeline for deployment and everything, and you are clear with the resources, whatever the resource required for your project, every resource handy in your team, and what are the cost, customer is accepted the cost which you quoted, and also you created all the environment which is required for project development, that is in your mission. Yes, good. Now everything is ready. Now we have to good to go. So now we have to go for design before going for actual implementation. Why? Because you people are already aware that the common point, blueprint. See, before constructing any house or any apartment or any big gated community or anything, they may draft a blueprint. Why? Because the blueprint will give you a clear-cut idea how it looks like, or how it will be executed after our real implementation. So that blueprint, which is a kind of similar that in real-time IT field also we are going for designing. So that is we call prototype or templates basically. So this prototype or template is a kind of interactable component, but it does not have actual implementation or does not have actual database. It's a just dummy application, I can say that. It looks like original, but it is not an actual component. So instead of direct implementation of the actual code, if you do some kind of draft version of the prototype or template, if you showcase to the customer, yes, so if customer said this is what I expecting, this is what outcome I'm really expecting, yes, it is good to go and you can go for writing the coding. But he said some feedback, he given some suggestions. Let's take example, you are almost there, but I need some kind of changes over that. Take the feedback and implement and showcase again. Or else the design itself is not like at all. Let's take example, no, not at all, this is what I'm expecting, please change everything. So this is a kind of feedback, right? But anything, it might be happened, it might be positive manner, and also it's only just design. By hardly hours of time or day, 1 day or 2 days, you can change a new design and show it to the customer. But if you really implement everything, the same feedback if you got from the customer, it is really dangerous. That means you may get a lot of loss for the customer, and even you will lose your efforts, lot of efforts from the team. So that's why design is very crucial part in the implementation, I can say, before implementation. So this will reduce the rework, I can say this, and this will give a more satisfaction to the customer, what he is getting end of the time he may see before only. So that is what we will generally do in the design part. A design means simply showcasing what we are going to be developing. That is basically we can use some SketchUp, as yesterday I told you, right? UI UX design, that is part of this design phase only. Okay, and after design completed, yes, this is the cleanly I can say that it's a green flag for your project. Why? Because once design completed and approved by the customer, there is a very limited chance of rejection of a project, or very limited scope of risk in the project. So that's why design is very a good scope or flag for our project success. So once design completed and approved by the customer, means it's giving a positive wave for application development. Now happily developers we can start coding with respect to the technology what they agreed. Like example, as I mentioned yesterday, we have so many options: Java, we have Python, .NET, PHP, Node.js, and React.js, and we have Parallel, CCPP. Likewise, in the market we have multiple combinations of technologies. So what technology you given commitment to the customer, we have to choose it, and we have to start writing coding in that to get our output. That means database integrations. So once coding completed, so before delivered to the customer, before giving actual output to the customer, first we have to thoroughly check ourselves as an internal organization and internal team, because we should get some confidence, or we should have that confidence, yes, we are giving 100% quality project, 100% bug free project to the customer. So that is why we require testing in the our life cycle of development. So once the development completed, we have to thoroughly test the application. See, in your case also, once you started working on any application, please try to cover as much as testing possible, because you may reduce the number of issues to the customer. Like example, you develop a registration, do all combinations, like example, by giving the duplicate email, by giving the duplicate mobile number, and by without giving any data, such kind of all combinations we have to try and error. Then only we can give a kind of successful product to the customer. So that's why a testing is very important component. But in real time, if you speak, mostly developers may perform the unit testing, like high level testing, but there will be a separate team called testing team. That team will take care of the complete testing activities. Mostly in recent days, developers may not involve in the detailed testing, but older days developer only will do the testing. Okay, now finally testing completed, so it means everything is clean, everything is ready to go for customer, everything is ready for deliver to the customer. So obviously the next part is operations, means it may comes under the deployment, delivery, and maintenance. So these three activities comes under the operations. So first, whatever the project we build, so we may deploy the application so that everyone can access the application. It means if it is web application, maybe we may attach this code to some domain, like example www dot some grocerydelivery.com. Similarly, if it is mobile application, they may put into the Play Store, you can download and consume it. So similar way, whatever the application we develop, it may be web or mobile, iOS, whatever, accordingly we have to deploy so that the end customer can consume it. Okay, and after starting using by the customer, he may what you can say, that give some suggestions, that might be issues or that might be enhancements, whatever it is, we may take it as a feedback and we will start implementing. So that is only technically called as version upgrade. So whenever, see, if you go for WhatsApp or Facebook, whatever it is, every month or every quarterly you will get updates, right? New features or new upgrades. So that is what we call maintenance work. So as a days going on, we may feel that we it may be add on some more features, or it would be better to have this feature. So in that case, we may upgrade our application, again re-release into the market. So this process never end process in any application. That is a day, every day it will be going upgradation, right? So that's like that the operations is going on. That is what we call maintenance of the project. So these are the different phases basically which are involved in the any application or any company. It might be TCS, Infosys, Wipro, or XYZ company, any company. They will follow the same steps only, but only difference, as I mentioned, how they will implement or where they implement. This might be different company to company, but the steps won't be different. The steps won't be what we can say, that differentiate from one stage, one area to another area. This will be common for every company. So that's why we have to understand each phase, significance of each phase, and we need to understand idea of the each phase. But definitely as a developer, if you speak, we may involve in the coding phase other than all the other phases. But as a developer, we should have a clear cut idea what's going on before coding and after coding also. Then only we can have some what do you call do the some good standard of coding. That's very important. Okay, so this is what we call software development life cycle. Okay, so it is common for every process or every company. But if you speak of specifically waterfall, it will also involve the same phases, but only the difference, I can say that waterfall is a step-by-step procedure. That means whatever the phases just now explained, if one phase completed, then only the second phase will be start. Once the second phase, then only third. Likewise, the step-by-step process, it will be taken care. And the second, see, please listen. This is very important points. What I'm telling. What is waterfall means? It will first of all follow the sequential manner of execution of all the phases of the development. Like once you complete the requirements gathering, then only you will start analysis. Once you complete the analysis, then only you can start the design. So step by step process, or I can say sequential execution of the stages. And second, it's a purely document driven process. Why? Because whatever the document or what you call outcome is given from the requirement analysis team, that will be utilized by the analysis team. Whatever the analyze team will give the SRS to the design team, they will design accordingly. Whatever the design document given to the development, they will do the coding accordingly. That means whatever the previous team completed their work and they given on document as an outcome of the respective phase, based on the document only the next team will keep on working. So it indicates a kind of risk. Let's take example, the requirement gathering team did some mistake while gathering the requirements, then that mistake will keep carry forward to entire all the phases, other phases. So likewise, the mistake of one team will impact to the other teams also in this particular waterfall model. That is one more risk we have. And waterfall is completely time based process. That means at the time of requirements gathering, you should agree to given to the customer with a certain timeline. Let's take example 6 months or 1 year or 2 months or 2 years, like that. So the timeline cannot change in between or after you realize that something you missed or something you added. Okay, so the client always strict with the timeline. You have to deliver the project within the timeline only, whatever it is. Okay, so that is the another one. And the next point, in this entire process of development in waterfall, client never involved with the dev team or development team. He will involve only starting of the requirement gathering and end of the delivery. That's it. In between what happening or what's going on, he won't bother. Simply he will tell you what is my input and what is my expected output. That's it. So based on that, you have to understand and you have to deliver properly. If you did something wrong in between any stage, that may leads to customer violation or customer requirement deviation. So again, you have to restart and redo this entire project from start. This is the biggest risk involved in the waterfall model. So sometimes it may leads to the failure of the project also, because as I mentioned, right, so sometimes whatever you did completely client not accepted, then it will be going for collapse entire project and you require to restart project entirely from zero. So that is the biggest drawback what we have in the waterfall model. That's why in recent days, most of the companies, not most, 99% of companies, we are not using the waterfall, we are going for agile. But still 1 to 5% of people are using waterfall. Why? Because to develop the small scale projects, assume that there is a simple project client wants, which may takes to complete hardly 15 to 30 days, 30 days, not months or years. So in that time, it's better to go with waterfall rather than other models, because very short time and short application. Maybe it has 1 or 2 pages. So simply you can start and deliver to the customer. So that kind of small scale projects and fixed requirement projects, and what we can say that very less scope in change in the requirements. In that all cases, waterfall is best option. But if it is large scale application, if the requirements keep on changing, and there is no certainty on the requirement understanding, so in these all cases, it's not good to go for waterfall model. So this is all about waterfall. So before going to the next model, so if you have any question, please let me know. I will give a maybe 2 to 3 minutes of break. So please revise yourself each phase what's shown on the screen. If you're not getting anything on any phase, please let me know. I will explain. Otherwise, I will start the other model, agile model. Please go through that. Any doubts? Maybe any messages are coming? I'll just look on that. Let me check. Okay. So is it audible now? All of you, can anyone confirm? Is it audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So here one of you asked, like, can you explain about deployment? Once all the requirements development completed and testing completed, okay, so then we may communicate with the customer that development testing completed, so can we go for deployment of deliver to the customer or deployment the application. What it means, means development means we are writing all the code and executing the code, and you are seeing the output in your local laptops or machines. It's not in the public domain. Deployment means once your work completed, we may place this entire code what we deployed into server. So that might be AWS or Azure or maybe Apache. Yesterday I told you, right, Tomcat, Apache Tomcat. So one of such server will deploy this entire code. Deployment means copy paste. Whatever the code we have in the local machine, we'll put this entire code in the server machine. And to make it visible, that code to all the public people as like you and me, we will attach or we will tag that particular repository, or we can say that the folder where the code is there with some domain name. Let's take example. If user clicked on www.grocerydelivery.com, then automatically my code should execute in the server and it has to show the output. Okay, so for that deployment process will be taken care basically. So deployment means deploy the code into the server, domain mapping, and execute to the customer. Okay, and after deployment will comes to the user testing, like user will verify that everything is working or not, then they will go for customer delivery, that is marketing. I can say that advertisements and marketing, that they will start working on it. So that is what we call deployment. Okay, I hope everyone clear now. So now the next one is, as currently market is majority of the IT industry is following agile model. So what, see again, it is also a part of development life cycle only. So it indicates that here also we are not something going for doing newly. I can say that whatever the previously explained the phases like requirements, analysis, design, development, testing, deployment, same only will be here also. But only the difference here is we are not taking all the requirements at a time. So in waterfall, as I mentioned, right, initially we'll take all the requirements, and after that we'll deliver all together as a customer. But in Agile, we will only take a portion of the work and will showcase to a customer, and will continue the same way in number of iterations. So that's why we call Agile is an iterative and incremental approach. That means we are not taking, if we consider in previous case only, we have totally 120 requirements. In waterfall, what I told you, we will take all 120 requirements at a time, we will start development and testing. But in Agile, in 120 requirements, we not taking all together at a time. We'll just take a kind of a small intervals. Let's take example, consider a 1 month of time. I will give a target of 1 month. So out of 120, how many requirements can you as a team could complete in the 1 month? Let's take example, out of 120, let's take you decided, okay, I can only complete 5 requirements out of 1 month. Okay, then take that 5 requirements, understand it, I mean to say analyze it, 5 requirements, design them, develop them, and deploy and showcase to the customer. You after, definitely once you showcase to the customer, you will get a feedback, right? Along with this feedback, take another 5 requirements, start one more month, and redo the application. Likewise, instead of taking all the requirements at a time, take 5, we can say incrementally, means 5 or 10 based on your capacity, based on your time availability, how much time you have, take them and start doing all the phases of execution like analysis, design, development, deployment. Then go for another set of requirements. Likewise, till the completion of 120 requirements, do the same process. That is what you call iterations. We keep on doing the same action again and again and again. So that is what basically the fundamental idea of the agile model. So only difference, here and there we are following the same 5 stages, okay, but only the difference, in waterfall all together we are doing at a time, but in agile model we are doing bit by bit or incremental manner instead of doing all together at a time. And the second one is, in waterfall, clearly I mentioned that once the first stage completed, then only the second phase will be completed. Once the second phase completed, then only the third phase will be completed. But in Agile, all together will happen parallelly as part of iteration. Means development, testing, design, all activities will do at a time in the Agile model. It's not like one by one. All people will together connectively form a group, where the group consists, a team consists designer, developer, tester, and all together they will discuss, analyze, and develop the application. It's not like that once designer complete, then we go for, it's not like that. All people will work together and will give a product to the customer. So that's why it is a very more parallel execution concept. And one more very important is, in waterfall, as I mentioned, end of the day only we are showcasing all the output to the customer for rejection or selection, whatever it is. But in agile, every iterative incremental time, I mean to say, take, I consider 1 month. So every 1 month you are interacting with the customer, so that you will getting a quickly feedback from the customer. That means within 1 week you are getting a feedback, and based on the feedback you are doing upgradation or degradation. Example, customer wants to add one more, as you are adding. If you want to delete something, you are deleting. So keep on you are interacting with the customer. Just imagine that end of the day, not end of the day, even end of the mid time also, you may not feel something is in the risk, because you are already shown to the customer, already customer approved it, and already customer given a clear cut feedback on that. So there is no scope at all rejection at the end of the day. But in waterfall there is always a high risk of rejection. But in agile we never get such kind of rejection, because we are always interacting with the customer. So that is very very high advantage in the agile model. But in agile, then what are the drawbacks? Are the biggest drawback, the name itself is telling agility. What do you mean by agility? Ready for change. So generally agility means, in English, ready for change means at any time, meanwhile of the process of the development or testing in design, customer has a complete right to change the requirement. I will tell you one example. In waterfall, you was planning to start a login functionality. You went to customer, he said, I want login functionality with email and password. Okay, now you started working, and end of the day customer realizes that in recent days no one is using email and password, everyone is using mobile with OTP. Now he came back to you again, he's telling that no, I don't want that requirement, I want like that. In waterfall, you as a developer, you have 100% right to reject that requirement. So simply you can say, at that time of agreement, you said this is the requirement. That's why we developed it. Now, if you are not saying this, we don't accept. Now, if you really wants to force to do that, you have to pay extra money for that, extra time for that. We can't deliver within the timelines what initially we given commitment. We can't deliver the same thing initially what we committed agreement for the amount. Within that, we can't deliver. If you want, that will be extra. I will give you a new quotation, and as per that only we can proceed. You have 100% right to say like this in the waterfall. But in agile we don't have at all. Initially he said email password. At the time of demo, in the 1 month you developed, and after 1 month you given demo, but he changed his mindset, changed to mobile number OTP. Yes, you, as a developer, you should 100% obey that order, and you have to change entire coding into the mobile with OTP rather than email and password. That is only the major drawback in the agile, but that is a major advantage to the customer. He can change or do whatever he want at any time. Definitely cost, comparatively waterfall, it's more expensive and more high budget projects. That's why agile is more suitable for large scale application, not for small scale. Like example, small applications, we never use the agile model. We'll go for insurance projects, banking sector, and loan processing, or e-commerce, or edutech. So these domains only mostly we used agile. For our other domains, whatever our utilities or general basic applications, we may go for generally waterfall model only. Okay, so this is all about agile and waterfall. But the outline is, in both the models we may go for analysis, so requirements analysis, design, development, testing, and implementation. These are common. But in waterfall you are going for one by one. In agile we are going all together in a small intervals of time. That is the major difference we have in agile and waterfall. So that is what I given a screenshot here. If you see, first right side screen, if you observe that requirements, with respect to requirements, waterfall is clearly defined, as I mentioned, right? Clearly agreed upon to the both the parties, customer and developer. Agile, always there is a chance of can change the requirements. And client involvement in waterfall, as I mentioned, starting, ending, that's it. In between, the client involvement doesn't happen in the waterfall. But in Agile, every phase, every team, every meeting he may involve, he will give his always opinion. And type, straightforward solutions, waterfall. That means very simple application, very straightforward application, we go for waterfall. If it is very large scale complex application, we go for Agile. Time frames, waterfall, as I mentioned initially, whatever the commitment we given, within that we have to strict with respect to both the parties. But Agile, there may be always chance of varying. We may given little early, or we may given little late. It may depends on the change of the requirement. And similarly, budget also. Term collaboration, moderate and intense, as I mentioned, right? So left side, if you see the way of approach, waterfall, step by step process, that is what given sequential manner, one step after one step. But whereas Agile, it will be iterative and incremental approach. The same cycle we are iteratively executing, and we are capturing the outcomes at every cycle. So this is all about your waterfall and Agile as part of software development life cycle. But if you joined in any company right away in the right now in 2024 or 25, whatever it is, you may see 95% of companies and projects will be Agile. Only 5% of projects and companies will follow the waterfall, except IT I'm talking. But other than IT means information technology, like what we have civil industry, or I mean civil means construction field, or machineries, or chemical field, or pharma industry, that all industries will still follow the waterfall only. They won't follow Agile. Why? Because for them it is very expensive to implement Agile, and is not really suit to implement. Example I will tell you, construction only. Initially you given a blueprint to the customer, he agreed and he paid the advance. After construction entire building, he said, no, I don't want this model, I want different model. So is it really feasible to do? No, right? So it's very expensive, and also it's not really feasible to reconstruct a new house, right? So that's why, other than IT, Agile is not at all feasible to implement in real time. But in IT, most of the companies are following Agile process. Okay, so this is all about your waterfall and Agile models, and this is technically we called as software development life cycle. As a fresher, we should understand very clear about it, so that you may not give confuse, or you may not have doubt in the development working procedures in real time. When you join there, once you clear with that, that will be very clear to understand yourself what is the role and responsibilities as a developer or tester in the real time. So this is all about our working mechanism or project mechanism. Even it is implemented for implicable for small, I mean that internship project, or your academic projects also same way. So whether you will go for waterfall or Agile, it all depends on your requirement and your feasibility of work. Okay, so this is all about SDLC. So does anyone any doubt, please ask me. So now I will give a break for your doubts clarification. Yeah, so what is the use of waterfall model rather than Agile model? As I explained already, I think, I hope this point already clear. Okay, just before lastly I covered that point. And can you please explain about how competitive exams conducted online, like by TCS Ion? So basically, see, TCS Ion or any like online exams for your IT industry, recent days it will be two things, Nana. It will cover two things. Most of the companies are not giving any arithmetic reasoning straight away questions recent days. They will go for two-step procedure. One step is object oriented questions, will with respect to your technical stack. It may include Java, Python, SQL, HTML, whatever the language stack they offer. Based on, they will go for objective. And second one is they are giving an subjective question with objective. Means olden days we have arithmetic separate, right? But nowadays they are not asking any question straight away in subject, means programming question. I'm telling example, I will tell you. They won't ask you write a program for write a prime number. They won't ask you write a Java program for palindrome. Such kind of question they will never ask. They will give a big theory. I mean to say, in childhood days, if you remember, there is a English one chapter called comprehension. They will give a big paragraph. After reading the paragraph, they will give a 5 questions below that. You have to read the entire paragraph and understand and answer these questions. This is what we call comprehension in the English, right? Similar approach now they are following in IT also. They will give you a big paragraph to you. Now you have to read the paragraph, understand the question, Now convert into IT terminology, technical way. Now implement the program. So here in this question only, they are giving two what do you call chapters. One is logical and arithmetic reasoning. That's simply I call reasoning thinking. And second, your technical expertise. Both will be covered in the same question. Let's take, if you're not really good at reasoning, the question itself you may not understand. Leave it about programming. First question itself you won't understand. If you clear the question, if you got the how to, what is expectation first of all, then you may start writing the program either may in the Python or Java. Again, I initially I told you, right, recent days no company for freshers restricting to language. Like example, while you're writing any examination, they won't ask you write a program in Java, write a program in Python. They will give a big drop down. It may consist all the Java 8, Java 16, Python, parallel, C, CPP, all the languages will be over there in the drop down. You can choose whatever the language you comfort and write the program. So it indicates that they're not focused on the language, they're focused on the logic what you are writing. So please focus at least now onwards, understanding the logic and implement the logic, not the programming. Second, don't by heart the programs first of all. Like most of the people will do by heart the some VVIMP questions as like intermediate, like prime number, palindrome, Armstrong number, like that. It doesn't work out in recent days. Okay, and objective straightforward questions will come as on the technology basically. So this is as like someone mentioned TCS Ion, right? It's all the, not only that TCS Ion, all the Capgemini, Amazon, what do you call the IBM, all these companies will follow the same strategy. Objective, subjective, but subjective will be consist two things, logical and technical, both will be one question only. Maybe in next class, tomorrow class, I will brought one question to you. Recently, one of the person written the IBM, I think IBM or something. I will capture that question and I will showcase how it looks like something. Okay. Yeah, fine. So any other questions? Any last minute questions? Yeah, sure. So whatever the record is like, last 2 days I'm on vacation. So whatever the recording we did on the last class and today's class, both will be shared today end of the day. Okay, in the same group. So you can go through that. Okay, thank you. Bye. Take care. So any last minute questions? Okay, take care then. Bye bye. Tomorrow we'll meet by same time. Take care.